Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Stupid ass jump scare. Vampires. They are easily my favorite monster in cinematic history. Not only can they be very scary and very violent and bloody, but they can also be very romantic, very also erotic, if you will. And there is a huge variety of vampire movies. Great ones, bad ones, gothic ones, modern ones, Dracula in space. There are many of them. But today, to celebrate the Week of Terror, let's look at my top 10 personal favorite vampire movies. This is my list. You can make your own list in the comments below, so enjoy. And also, they are put in alphabetical order, as always. First up is 30 Days of Night. This is one very recent horror movie, and honestly, this is one of those movies that manages to make vampires really freaking scary. This movie is set in the north of the world, where a couple of times a year there is either 30 days of constant light, or, in this case, 30 days of constant dark. And the vampires take the opportunity to go and kill everyone they can find and to stack up some food for the future months to come. And that's a very interesting concept, and the movie is handled very darn well. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of the finale of the movie itself, it is a very dark, violent, very intense also movie. It feels kind of like more of a zombie apocalypse movie than a straightforward vampire flick. And I do recommend you watch this with the lights out, because even though there are some jump scares, it's a very intense experience that you definitely must check out if you like the genre. Then we go from horror movie, straightforward scary, to an action horror movie, and probably my favorite action horror movie out there, Blade 2. Directed by Guillermo del Toro, Wesley Snipes is great in this movie, and there is a new type of vampires going around. Vampires whose face opens up and it sucks you in and it contaminates you and you become a contagious, really ugly ass vampire, and it is a ton of fun. It's basically kind of like Aliens, with a group of vampires who team up with Blade in order to kill this new menace. And boy, it's full of fun moments, the action is great, it's also very intense, and the look of the vampires is very scary. If you've seen the TV show The Strain, which is also made by Guillermo del Toro, you know what you're in for. And boy, the action is just so much fun, and seeing Blade, the vampire hunter, the day walker, kill those vampires in brutal fashion with the sword and everything. Ton of fun, a ton of fun. Then we have probably one of the best book to movie adaptations ever made, and probably my favorite gothic movie out there, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, this movie first of all has a stunning cast. You have Gary Oldman as Dracula, you have Winona Ryder, you have Keanu Reeves, really bad English accent, you also have Anthony Hopkins in the most accurate, even though not really the best in my opinion, portrayal of Van Helsing, the vampire hunter. And the set design, this story, they are truly great, especially if you love the book just as much as I do, because it's a beauty to watch, it's very well directed, it's also very romantic of a movie. It's very different from the book, which was more creepy, straightforward, told through letters and diary entries. This one is actually more romantic, and they give some backstory to Dracula's character to make you feel more sympathetic towards him. And also there are some very creepy ass moments, like the weird orgy with Monica Bellucci and the other two vampire ladies. Weird ass scene. Then we have the first of two cheats on this list. Yeah, I cheated a little bit, but I had to. It's Fright Night. Both the original and the remake. Because I like the remake. it's pretty darn fun. It changes some things from the original, it has updated visuals, but still, I also really do love the original movie of Fright Night. A student whose neighbor is a vampire, he asks help from a TV celebrity or a vampire hunter, in both different movies, and they go out and try to kill this damn menace. There are also werewolves, there are creepy ass visuals in the original, the new one has better acting in my opinion, but the story is not on par with the original, but they're both really fun movies about vampires, and they really kind of deconstruct the genre and destroy a couple of myths that everyone believes about vampires. So there are two movies that are hugely underrated in my opinion that you definitely have to check out for yourself. And from two very underrated movies, we go to what's probably the first truly scary, and at least in my opinion, vampire movie. And it's also the first movie by Hammer Productions to feature Dracula, played by Christopher Lee. Yeah. The Horror of Dracula, or Dracula as it's known in the UK. It's a truly cult movie in the vampire genre, because it has the first ever performance by Sir Christopher Lee. Unfortunately he died, but he was still very damn old, and this is one of his most memorable performances. This is kickstarted a whole franchise of movies, but the first one in my opinion is still the best one. I also really like the portrayal of Van Helsing in this movie. He's not as kooky and weird as he was in the book of Bram Stoker and in Coppola's version, but he's still a very great character, and it's just a classic movie that you have to check out for yourself. And here we have another cheat. Yeah, it's another remake and original movie, but let me in and let the right one in. They're two phenomenal, dramatic horror movies, because while they do feature vampires, it's not really all that much about the vampire aspect of it. It's more about a little kid who has some serious ass social issues and is bullied at school constantly, and one day he befriends a neighbor. And yes, it's a vampire just like in Fright Night, but this time it's a little girl of his age. And the two stories of the movies are pretty similar. Some people prefer the original, some people prefer the remake. I saw the remake first and I prefer it over the original, but the original is still 5 out of 5 material in my opinion, and they are truly sad and very quiet movies, with a couple of tense sequences, of course, some vampire action, but nothing too graphic or violent for its own good. It's still more about the relationship between the two kids, what it means to be a vampire, and how it can actually affect and destroy your whole life once you become a vampire really young. It's a movie that makes you think about a lot of situations that these fictional characters go through in these movies. Let Me In is easily one of my personal favorite movies ever made. It's not for everyone, it's very slow, some people find it boring, stupid. I liked it, I really did like it, and it features vampires, so that's why it's on their list. And now another classic vampire movie. Even though it's the remake and not the original, even though you could check out the original, but still. Nosferatu, starring Klaus Kinski, is another gothic masterpiece. And there isn't that much to say. It's a very quiet, subtle movie with creepy imagery, a great remake of the original, what was it, even 1930s movie? But it's a great movie. Klaus Kinski is creepy as hell as Nosferatu, the creature of the night, with those big prosthetic fingers. Oh, it's a very great movie. Not for everyone. For younger audiences it's probably a little bit too slow for their tastes compared to other movies on this list, but I like it quite a lot. And Nosferatu is the first movie vampire ever made, in the very first movie. But this remake is way better, with a more interesting story, more compelling characters, and yeah, great visuals. And I love the poster. It's a great freaking poster. Only Lovers Left Alive. That's another romantic, quiet vampire movie with barely any action. Barely. but the performances are truly stellar. You have Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston as two vampire lovers who are surviving through the centuries, and you also have Mia Wasikowska, you have John Hurt. It's a very great cast. This is a very slow movie, a very romantic movie. Not for everyone, just like the other ones on this list, but it's one of those movies that's just kind of like a wave, you know? Like watching waves. It's very hypnotic, and you get stuck into it, and you just go away from the shore, and you find yourself drowning in sorrow, and everything becomes dark, and you start drowning, and you can't breathe anymore. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, Only Lovers Left Alive. Good movie, good movie. Then at the penultimate spot we have a very underrated movie that honestly barely qualifies as a movie, but I really wanted to put this on the list because I love it that much. It's a miniseries, a 2-part miniseries. Salems Lot. It's 3 hours long, but it's a ton of fun. If you like vampire movies and haunted houses, definitely watch this 2-parter. It's very great. It's about this town where houses are being sold, people are going missing, there are vampires, there are creepy ass shit and imagery, and honestly no one really talks about this movie, and all I can say is just try to find a way to watch it because it's worth it. I don't want to spoil anything about it, but it's truly worth it. Kinda old, really, but still a great vampire flick. And last, but certainly not least, is, of course, at the 10th spot, the final one, a South Korean movie. Because there's going to be a South Korean movie in every single list that I make from now on. Yeah. And this movie is Thirst, directed by Park Chan-wook. And I'm only gonna say the premise. It's about a Catholic priest who becomes a vampire. And he starts having lust for blood and for sex. It's a South Korean movie. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna have some slapstick comedy from Park Chan-wook. It's gonna have stellar acting from the main guy. I always forget his name, but he's in every single South Korean movie. It's a very solid movie that brings up some very interesting themes that aren't usually told in these kind of movies, and it's beautifully shot, very entertaining, and very disturbing. Yeah, just like any other South Korean movie. But still, definitely worth a watch if you haven't watched it already. So guys, this was my list of my top 10 personal favorite vampire movies. There are many more to choose from. One that comes just right from the top of my head is Vampires by John Carpenter. Pretty darn great, but just missed the list just a tiny bit. But still guys, tell me your personal favorite vampire movies in the comments below and tell me if you agree or disagree with some of my choices. But still guys, thanks as always for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next horror video.